Thank you for staying with us. This afternoon, we're taking you straight to the Volta region, where the Volta Regional Security Council has aborted plans to reopen the Ho Central Mosque, led by the Volta Regional Minister James Gudu, who visited the Hozongo on May 7, with the intent to reopen the mosque following a bond of good behavior signed by leaders of the feuding groups. The bond also enjoined the two leaders to commit to peace or serve a one-year jail term with hard labor if defaulted. The move was, however, aborted when the RECSEC engagement with the Zongo community took a dramatic turn. Now, joining us on the phone lines now is my colleague from the Volta region, Faisal Idrisu, to bring us more updates on this. Faisal, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Has there been any progress in talks for the mosques to reopen?
Certainly not at this moment, because yesterday, when the Volta Regional Minister met the Zongo community, he went there with two intents. One is to engage them and inform them about the decisions that they have taken behind the scenes, involving both leaders, that is Alhaji Hamidu Anas and Alhaji Muniru Ali. And then the second one was to proceed to reopen the mosque for them. But because of the disagreement and the chaos that we witnessed yesterday, the mosque remained closed. The regional minister, after that engagement yesterday, proceeded to see Alhaji Hamidu Anas, who were told was not in good health and could not attend the meeting himself. He met him, wished him well, and informed us that he was going to engage further to see when the grounds will be fertile enough for the reopening of the mosque. So as I speak to you, the whole Central Mosque remains closed until further notice.
Faisal, we also understand that the minister attempted to offer some monies to appease the feuding factions, and it was rejected. Am I right?
Yes, but not entirely the case. The case is that during the December 2025 shooting incident, some people were injured, and the minister actually made the donation yesterday to defray the costs they incurred, the medical bills they incurred. The group insisted that they were not going to take the money because the perpetrators behind the shooting incident in December are still not found and punished. And so until that is done, they are not going to receive or accept any form of donation or support from any government representative as far as this conversation and the chaos in the Zongo is concerned. And so this is the ground upon which the group rejected the money yesterday.
Faisal, thank you so much. And that was Faisal Abdul Idrisu. He's a Volta regional correspondent, bringing us some updates from the Volta region, where plans to reopen the whole Central Mosque has been aborted. Now, away from that, the Inspector General of Police Special Operations Team has arrested 50 suspects during a special operation conducted on May 7, 2026, within the Medina Market Enclave in the Greater Accra region. Providing updates on the security situations in Accra, Director General of Operations COP Tay Kujo said the suspects are assisting with investigations for further action.
50 suspects comprising 46 males, 4 females were arrested during the exercise. Preliminary screening of the suspect established the following nationalities: 25 Ghanaians, 13 Nigerians, 9 Nigerians, 1 Malian, 1 Togolese, and 1 Burkinabe national. 2 of the suspects, Abigaloko, age 26, and Mohamed Zaya, a Nigerian national, were identified as the kingpins within the criminal network. Additionally, suspects Yusuf Abubakar, age 25, and Amadou Alfani, age 43, both Nigerian nationals, were identified as shop owners engaged in the sale and distribution of narcotic substances.
Now, meanwhile, the police have arrested 3 persons in connection with the killing of an Indian national whose body was discovered in the boot of his car in Sabim Ekrofum on the outskirts of Kumasi. Now, it had earlier been reported and prompting police investigations. Now, according to the police, The arrest of one suspect led to the apprehension of the other suspect. Let's take a listen to the Deputy Commissioner of Police and Director General of Public Affairs, Grace Ansa Akrofi, speaking.
Suspect Akum Kujo Jr., who was the first suspect to be arrested, admitted to the murder and further disclosed that on 24 April 2020, admitted to the murder and further disclosed that on 24 April 2026, he went to the deceased's workplace where he disconnected and replaced closed-circuit television camera server. Disconnected and replaced closed-circuit television camera server with the assistance of suspect Moru Sule, alias Moru Aboboya. He subsequently concealed the CCTV server and other items at Daban news site in Kumasi. Suspect Akum Kujo Jr. led the police to the location at Daban news site where the CCTV server was successfully retrieved.
That was the Deputy Commissioner of Police and Director General of Public Affairs, Grace Ansa Akrofi, there. Now we'll go on to some troubling news, as a case of an alleged child abuse in North Legon has sparked outrage after a 60-year-old man was arrested for reportedly tying his teenage son to a cart bike and dragging him on the streets, leaving his bodies with severe injuries. The suspect, identified as Eric Mante, has since been charged with causing harm following the shocking incident, which residents says unfolded a public view despite repeated attempts to stop him. Stanley Nibel has more in this report.
60-year-old Eric Mante is the biological father of the teenager. On May 3, 2026, the teenager reportedly went out with his friends to play football in their neighborhood. This was after the father had cautioned him on multiple occasions to refrain from mingling with the group. Moments later, the father was informed by his youngest child that her elder brother had gone out to play with his friends. The teenager was later said to have entered a neighbor's swimming pool without the owner's consent. The father, who lives with a physical disability and works with the aid of crutches, followed him to the playground. With the assistance of some people, the father succeeded in apprehending his son and later tied him to his quad bike. The man then dragged the boy along the tarred streets of North Legon, ignoring repeated interventions by neighbors and other road users. Eventually, a group of residents gave him a chase and stopped him. Accra Regional Police Public Relations Officer Superintendent Juliana Obeng, providing an update, said investigations are ongoing while the suspect has been arraigned before court.
He went to court yesterday, but the court didn't sit. We are looking at taking him back to court this afternoon. These are still going on. For now, we are looking at causing harm. But yes, as we proceed with investigations, if there are additional charges, would prefer as well.
Ninoy, a neighbor who led the arrest of the cobbler, corroborated the events of the day.
What I see is you have tied the child the back of the motor. So I tried to stop him because he knows me. But as I try to stop him, he don't stop. So I have to change him, follow him, need to make him so that people will come out, then we rescue the boy. You don't mind. There's a police post in my area. He turned, there's a lady over there. Try to stop him too. He don't stop. So we have to follow him.
Now joining us on the phone is the Executive Director of Child Rights International, Bright Apia, for the latest on this story. Mr. Apia, thank you so much for joining us and good afternoon to you. I mean, what was your immediate reaction when you heard or saw the disturbing video?
Well, it's a very appalling thing that the father has done, but the reality is that is what children go through on a daily basis. So those are the things that they face, and it's very worrying.
Right. Mr. Apia, we believe that the child may be will eventually face some traumatic experience. How should we deal with this, or how should the emotional aspect of this be dealt with regards to the child in this situation?
Well, there must be a proper investigation into the background of the family to be able to establish the foundation for any diagnosis that can be done. Looking at the state of the father, you need to do a proper investigation to establish what exactly the issues are and the kind of remedy that we can profess for the healing process of this particular child. If you listen to the story properly, I believe that this is not the first time that a child has gone through this level of punishment, but this is the one that we are witnessing or we've seen. So it will add everything up for us to understand that this is what is going on in the home. But for us to be able to tackle the psychological needs of the child and even the father, we need to understand the background of the family and then know exactly what to do.
Right. As an advocate for child's rights, how often do you hear of such stories or situations? How often do these things happen?
Well, where I say that I witnessed a number of these things, this kind of punishment that have been reported to our offices. And I feel there is something that needs to be corrected. We need, as a country, go back to look at our caregiving systems of this country, and then how parents are supposed to play their role effectively to give children the kind of support that they need to be able to grow well. A lot of homes are going through psychological issues that we take for granted. And at the end of the day, it is the vulnerable groups that suffer the consequences of this action, including children and especially when it comes to the girl child. So clearly, we should not just take it on a face value to think that somebody has just committed offense, but we should go deeper to understand the causes and why would somebody take such action against a child in that manner without even having any recourse to the kind of punishment that will be meted out to him, or even taking the state of the child into consideration. So the whole audit processes of understanding the minds of parents in this country, I think we have overlooked it, and it is time for us to begin to do that audit to be able to understand the state of parents and what they can do and what they cannot do, or what is driving them to take some of these actions. And if we are able to do that, I think that we should be able to have a policy that will deal with parenting in this country so that children do not suffer the consequences or the byproduct of psychological issues that parents have gone through in the past, and they feel that it's normal for them to exhibit it on their children and vulnerable people. So I think that should be the focus for now.
Ms. Appiah, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And that was the Executive Director for Child's Rights International, Bright Appiah, providing us some insight on that troubling story. Now we'll move on to one of the pressing issues in Ghana currently. The Rent Control Department says it will closely monitor hostel accommodation charges across universities and other tertiary institutions following reports of alleged exploitation of students by hostel operators. During a tour of hostel facilities around university campus, the acting Rent Commissioner Frederick Opoku observed arbitrary fee hikes by some operators, a practice he described as unacceptable. Speaking on TV3, he lamented that the current pricing structure places a heavy burden on students and their guardians.
To set any price in this country as far as rent is concerned, rent control is given the powers and the mandate to do that. And we do assessment and issue certificate of assessment. But before we do the assessment, we come in and ask you what and what and what. It may be your maintenance or whatever you have done. We put all factors into consideration, then understand the percentage that you add on and look at it from an angle where it will benefit the tenant or the student. Then we all agree on one thing and help you so that you don't run at a loss. But if you tell us that we are not supposed to be involved, then that's the problem. So we are supposed to do the assessment, and when we do the assessment, we issue certificate of assessment. And when we issue the certificate of assessment, after 2 years, you cannot increase. And it applies to the hostel as well. This law has been there since Kwame Nkrumah's regime. So they are pretending as if there's no law, but the law was not enforced. And now we are enforcing it. Now,
that was Frederick Opoku. He's the acting rent commissioner at the Rent Control Department. Meanwhile, some students in tertiary institutions are appealing to government to intervene in the rising cost of hostel accommodation. Some students say they are paying as much as 7,000 cedis per semester for 4 occupants in a room, while in some private hostels, residents are also required to pay their own utility bills despite the high accommodation fees. Now we're crossing over to our reporter, George Quinen, who has been interacting with some students on the university campuses. George, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I mean, what have the students been telling you? I see that you've been speaking to quite a number of them.
Enyonam, it's quite a worrying situation for them. And actually, I was in University of Ghana, I was in UPSA, and I'm currently speaking to you from a private hostel here. And this hostel is located at the Congo, and surrounding universities close to this very schools, this very private hostel include University of Ghana, UPSA, Radford, and Nasford. And they're paying 5,500 in a room. And then aside that very huge, money they are paying, they put their own water and light bills. And most of these managers of these private hostels, anytime there's any increment, what they attribute that to is inflation, rising maintenance, and the utility bills. And if you ask some of these residents here, they will tell you they don't remember the last time they even had a maintenance work here. So what is warranted that increment? So the issue is they are paying more for rent than school fees, which is a serious issue. And every year, managers keep increasing this very, the charges. And it's a serious issue. If the government does not intervene, it'll get to a point where maybe they will be homeless. They would have to just squatter, just stay somewhere, just to enroll in school. And it's a serious issue.
You have been speaking to some of the students. So before you take leave of us, let's listen to some of the students, and then I'll come back to you.
Sure.
New thing for the entire year, academic year. So a semester will be like roughly 4 points something, but for the academic year, it's a 9.
It's not too much.
It is though, but then what can you do about it? It's our parents that are.
And you think that some of these managers of these hostels, they are ripping you off?
Not really, because considering the services that are being procured on campus, it's expensive though, but then it's manageable. But recently they did some changes in the environment.
And so you pay your own light bill?
Yeah.
Water bill?
Nah.
So if you want government to intervene, how should you do it?
Probably they can negotiate with them so that a part will be taken out.
Your name?
George, before you take leave of us, briefly, does the money match the kind of services they are giving them in terms of the amenities in these hostels?
Okay, if you look at the area, Okongo is quite prime, and water, electricity is on, it's on 247 unless there's some sort of intermittent power outage, and the size of the room is very small. But if you look at the location, proximity to school, yes, but the size is what really matters. But proximity is okay, facilities, because it's actually a new space, and so these residents here are the ones that they moved in first. So all the things that they are enjoying, they are the ones using it for the very first time. If we take that out, the size is what matters. So 4 in a room, 4 people squeezing in that very small room, like an office space, I'd say it's not worth the 5,500. So 4 people, that's 22,000. And there's several of these facilities here, and all these places are full. It's like they don't have any option.
Right, indeed. Thank you so much, George. And that was George Quinen, our reporter, who has been visiting and interacting with some students on the university campuses on the high cost of hostel fees across the various universities in Accra. Now we'll take you to the Ashanti region, where members of Parliament's Select Committee on Lands and Natural Resources are calling for urgent reforms in Ghana's forest protection strategy following a visit to the Nkaria Forest District in the Ashanti region. The committee has been expressing concern over the growing threats posed by illegal chainsaw operators illegal mining activities and inadequate staffing within the Forestry Commission. Now we'll be joined very soon on the phone by our colleague Ibrahim Abubakar, who was with the Parliament's Committee on the Lands and Natural Resources touring the Inkaria Forest District. Ibrahim, thank you so much for joining us. How serious is the issue of illegal chainsaw operators and galamsey within the Inkaria Forest Reserves?
Well, the Inkaria Forest District Reserve, I would say, oversees 4 forest reserves in the Ashanti region. We are talking about Asinanyo, we are talking about Jimira, Tanofin, and Ofin Shelter Belt Reserve. And across all these reserves, you realize that illegal mining and logging activities have destroyed several hectares of farmland. Even though recent intensified operations by NIMOS and also the forest guards have helped move some heavily degraded reserves from red zones to, I would say, relatively stable conditions to allow restoration efforts, the situation remains far from under control because currently you move in and you see armed gangs who are still providing protection for illegal miners, making enforcement quite difficult for these forest guards. And just as recently as 2 months ago, forestry officials say they were prevented by armed gangs from entering some of these forest zones to carry out monitoring activities. And this has been a concern, especially when the members of parliament were shown those videos of the armed gangs. Most of them couldn't believe what they were seeing. For safety purposes, we couldn't even go to where the armed gangs were. So we had to move to around. But then the members or the committee say that the continual destruction of the forest demonstrate that the country's long-standing dependence on tax force has not helped. And for that matter, we need a different approach to be able to tackle this. That should be holistic from there. But then the committee has also been describing the staffing situation within the Forestry Commission as worrying because they learned that only about 60 of forest guards are manning over 500 hectares of land. And for that matter, look at their staff strength. They are unable to match these armed gangs. And for that matter, they say they will push for more forest guards to be recruited so that they will be able to match these gangs. I spoke to the deputy ranking member, Akwesi Konegu, and also the chairman of the committee, Collins Dauda. Let's listen to what they have been saying.
Forest, you have illegal mining also ongoing in these forests, and the number of atrocities that have been committed on some of these forest guards because of the numbers. We cannot arm them the way that we arm the military, but if the numbers are enough and they patrol in bulk or in drones, they'll be able to ward off some of these miscreants who enter into our forest and degrade the forest in that manner. But for what we've seen, I mean, the plantations that we've seen in they are managing, I think it's good. If we are able to replicate that, we'll be able to draw back our forest cover and the depleted forest reserves that we do have. Yes.
Of a request that the Forestry Commission has made to the Ministry of Finance for financial clearance to be able to employ more forest guards. And it's been with the Finance Ministry for very long, and there's no response. As a result, Forestry Commission is unable to engage more forest guards. But clearly we need more. So we will take this opportunity to appeal to the Minister of Finance to as quickly as possible give financial clearance to Forestry Commission. Otherwise, when the last tree dies, the Minister of Finance will die.
Now, Ibrahim, thank you. We also understand that the Forestry Commission has outlined some new strategies they have developed towards the fight against illegal mining and the illegal chainsaw operators. Briefly, take us through those.
Well, so the Forestry Commission is introducing what they call strategic forest camp, building these forest camp within some selected areas. And they say this is part of renewed effort to strengthen surveillance and also improve rapid response and also even deter these illegal miners and chainsaw operators from accessing the forest. So these are things that they've started and they are piloting it. If it's effective, then they will implement it across board. But still, like the concern has been, without more staff, it will still not be that strong, because they still need more forest guards to be able to man these forest areas so that they will be able to effectively protect our forest reserves.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. And that was Ibrahim Abubakar, Ashanti regional correspondent, bringing us updates over there. And finally, before we go, health authorities have launched a nationwide campaign to boost awareness and promote early detection of newborn jaundice, a condition that affects thousands of infants in Ghana every year. The 2026 initiative is in partnership with Unia Foundation, 3 Foundation, Africa Health Supplies, and the Pediatric Society of Ghana. They seek to expand public education on the condition across the country.
The newly introduced Newborn Jaundice Wellness Month is designed to educate parents, caregivers, and healthcare workers on the warning signs, dangers, and importance of early treatment of jaundice in newborns. The president of the Pediatric Society of Ghana, Dr. Hilda Mantebiaboy, said the campaign will focus on both urban and rural communities where awareness levels and access to treatment remain limited.
Newborn jaundice, it's very common. And this jaundice, even though it looks like nothing to be scared of, can cause disability and death in babies. As a result, look out for jaundice in your newborns or your babies after delivery, and see your healthcare professionals for assessment and management.
The month-long initiative will be carried out in hospitals and community health centers nationwide, with particular attention to rural communities where pediatric health care services are often inadequate.
And that was a report by my colleague Safwa Boahene there. That brings us to the end of Midday News here, 3FM 92.7. For more news, please check our website at 3news.com. I am Enyonam Haligah. Best market comes your way with business.
Follow us on social media: Twitter at 3FM927, Facebook at 3FM927, and also on 3news.com. Follow us on social media: Twitter at 3FM927, Facebook at 3FM927, and also on 3news.com.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Bank of Ghana Governor urges fintech sector to stop experimenting and start delivering. Also ahead, government's 300 diesel bus fleet sparks climate controversy. Plus, government of Ghana seeks to break 7th straight under-subscription streak with 4.349 billion cedis treasury bill auction today. I am Bismarck. I'll have details of this story and others shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. The governor of the Bank of Ghana says Africa's financial technology sector must stop experimenting and start delivering, warning that the continent's biggest challenge is no longer ideas but implementation. Dr. Johnson Isiama made the remarks at the Future of Finance Dialogue on the sidelines of the 2026 3i Africa Summit, one of the continent's leading gatherings on investment, innovation, and infrastructure.
The central bank governor acknowledged that Africa has no shortage of fintech frameworks, pilot programs, or big ideas, but said the time has come to move beyond controlled testing environments and into full-scale regulated deployment that generates tangible economic results for ordinary people. Dr. Isiama also called for a rethink of how regulatory sandboxes are used across the continent, arguing they should no longer serve merely as temporary testing grounds but a genuine launchpad for market participation and long-term innovation growth.
Now, regulatory sandboxes have served a purpose but they must become bridges to real market entry. The measure of a sandbox is not how many firms are admitted into it, but how many sound, well-governed institutions do graduate into productive participation in the regulated market.
Meanwhile, speaking at the same event, Chief Executive Officer of Idel Technology Consulting, Ethel Kofi, underscored the need for central banks and fintechs across the continent to collaborate and tackle cross-border payments to boost intra-African trade.
So we have people who go to China to go and buy things. And that process of, taking the money from Ghana and making payments in China, it's a very, very cumbersome process. That's something that we have local companies that can fix. And so again, we are trying to work with the central bank to find ways in which, things like cross-border finance, cross-border payments. We have lots of people who, are from Nigeria who come to school here. All those things will help build our companies so that they can provide solutions.
And that was a report by my colleague Michael Obodu on Bank of Ghana governor urging the fintech sector to stop experimenting and start delivering. Moving on, government's procurement of 300 diesel-powered buses to boost public transport has drawn sharp criticism from climate advocates who say the decision contradicts Ghana's own green transition commitments. The first 100 of the buses arrived in April, with further deliveries expected in August and November as part of efforts to ease congestion and improve access to reliable transport in major cities, including Accra.
The government procured 300 diesel buses to tackle growing pressure on the country's public transport network. The first 100 arrived in April, with further deliveries expected in August and November. The buses were meant to ease chronic congestion and long waiting times in cities like Accra, where commuters have long struggled to access reliable transport. But the relief was short-lived. When it emerged the buses ran on internal combustion engines, the initial public welcome quickly gave way to concern among environmentalists and climate watchers. Ghana is a signatory to the Paris Agreement and has committed under its nationally determined contributions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 64 million tons by 2030, with transport identified as one of the key sectors where cleaner alternatives must be prioritized. Critics say the latest procurement moves in the opposite direction.
It's introducing 300 diesel buses into the space of Accra where we know transport emissions are high. I think it's it feels like a lost opportunity, and I don't think that is the angle that we need to go.
Country lead for Clean Air Fund, Desmond Appiah, argues that government's action must align with its own climate sustainability policies and calls for a mandatory quota of climate-smart vehicles in all government automobile procurement. His organization is now demanding that at least 20% of all vehicles purchased by government over the next 3 years be electric.
After 2030, we want to get to maybe 35% or 40% over time. Then, of course, every procurement officer knows this is government's goal, and then we'll be moving towards that. But without being firm, we just seem to have made a broad, general commitment without the specifics.
Desmond Appiah is country lead of Clean Air Fund, ending that report. To one of our headline stories, Government of Ghana is returning to the domestic money market today with a target to borrow 4.349 billion cedis through its weekly treasury bill auction. There is more in the following 3 Business News Days report.
The move comes at a critical point for the Treasury, which is battling a persistent slump in investor demand. This upcoming auction, targeting 4.349 billion cedis, marks an attempt to snap a 7-week streak of undersubscription, a trend that has raised concerns over government's ability to meet its short-term financing needs. Tenors to be offered are the 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day bills. Analysts suggest the recent fatigue in the T-bill market may be driven by a tightening of available cedi liquidity within the banking sector. A gradual decline in the Ghana reference rate GRR, which dipped to 10.03% this month, potentially signaling to investors that yields may have peaked. Renewed interest in other assets classes as a broader macroeconomic environment shows sign of slow stabilization. The Bank of Ghana remains hopeful that the 4.394 billion cedis target, designed to roll over maturing debt and fund government operations, will find sufficient takers. However, if the trend of undersubscription continues into an 8th week, the government may be forced to further raise interest rates to entice worry investors, potentially increasing the overall cost of public debt.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on government seeking to break undersubscription streak with 4.349 billion cedis T-bill auction. This is still Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also, before we go, a new policy analysis by the Center for Economic Research and Policy Analysis, CEPA, says the Bank of Ghana's aggressive efforts to tame inflation and stabilize the cedi are significantly worsening the central bank's financial position. According to the think tank, high interest rates, expensive liquidity control measures, and exchange rate pressures are driving mounting operational losses, raising concerns over the long-term sustainability of the bank's balance sheet. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report. In its latest policy brief, the think tank says the Bank of Ghana's reliance on tight monetary policy tools, including high interest rates, open market operations, and central bank bills, has significantly increased operational losses. CEPA explains that efforts to absorb excess liquidity from the financial system have become more expensive under the current high interest rate environment, placing additional strain on the bank's finances. The report also points to the depreciation of the cedi as a major contributor to the losses, noting that the weakening local currency increases the domestic value of the Bank of Ghana's foreign liabilities, resulting in revaluation losses. CEPA says, although the measures are necessary to control inflation and restore economic confidence, they present a difficult trade-off between macroeconomic stability and the financial health of the central bank. The think tank is further raising concerns about quasi-fiscal interventions such as the Gold for Oil and Gold for Reserves programs, arguing that such initiatives fall outside the bank's core mandate. CEPA is therefore calling for a policy rethink and urging government to gradually take over non-core interventions, while the Bank of Ghana focuses primarily on price stability. And that report brings us to the end of Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also, for more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Urban Blend is next with Black Rasta. Please stay.